my God.
Law and Crime Interrogations. Subscribe today.
Just a reminder that no criminal charges have been filed against Diddy, but even still, we've seen some celebrities distance themselves from him. First, there's Ashton Kutcher, whose relationship with Diddy goes back to the early aughts. According to a source that spoke to the Daily Mail, regardless of Ashton's long history with him, he has distanced himself from Diddy since Cassie Ventura's lawsuit, and even more so in the wake of the new ones. Mila, Ashton's wife, will not let Ashton be in any sort of contact. After these allegations broke, Kansas City Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes deleted several of his tweets referencing Diddy. Both tweets date back to 2014 when Mahomes was just in college. One tweet read, quote, "Yeah, P. Diddy," and the other tagged a friend before writing him, "Happy birthday, P. Diddy, #fam." Mahomes hasn't spoken publicly about Diddy, and neither have some of Diddy's closest friends. That's people like his ex-girlfriend Jennifer Lopez, who was actually mentioned in Lil Rod's lawsuit. We haven't heard from Usher or Lil Kim either. And Naomi Campbell, who's been friends with Diddy for years and recently threw him a birthday party, scrubbed her Instagram of Diddy pics and any evidence of that party. Several other people have kind of taken a step away from Diddy. They haven't commented on it, but they're not really in support of him either. Why do you think that may be, that these celebrities are staying quiet on all this?
Well, I think it's probably because they are celebrities. This is being put over the media, all aspects of the media, whether it's Instagram or television or in a newspaper, like an old school newspaper they actually read. People are discussing it and it's getting out there and it's traveling. And I think some people don't want to have their reputation damaged by saying, well, if you hung out with him, you must have been doing stuff with him and you must know stuff about it. So I think people are just trying to take a step back before they take a step forward to see what direction they should go.
We have so many people who are stepping back from Diddy, from celebrities to business associates and partners, without any charges filed. Is it overkill for what they're doing, stepping away and no longer working with him?
That's a difficult question to answer. And it's a difficult question to answer because not everybody knows what the motivation is of people who are stepping away. People could be stepping away for another reason and just using this as an excuse to get out of something they weren't happy with before and doing things of that nature. So it's difficult. And like you said, it's very unusual when a case takes this long when you hear about it. But most of the cases we really hear about are state cases where people are arrested and the charges are done. Federal cases is not unusual for years to go on of investigation. I mean, we've witnessed it in political things. We're seeing it with celebrities where you hear about the investigation and it's like quiet for a couple months, then everything happens for a couple months, then it's quiet again. So it's just very difficult as to where they're going. Because another thing could be, just because something's taking long doesn't mean he's guilty. It could mean they're having trouble finding evidence and that their investigation is not going as smoothly as they thought it was, and it's taking more time. So there's both sides to all those arguments without more facts.
But there are some who are voicing their opinions. One celebrity who we know has been outspoken is 50 Cent, and he's actually come out and said things against P. Diddy. He's referenced the R. Kelly documentary from a couple years ago that came out ahead of R. Kelly's federal trial. And he has said he now wants to do a similar documentary that he is funding about P. Diddy and the allegations against him. Now, we know that the documentary in the R. Kelly case was pretty damning for R. Kelly. Could the same thing happen for P. Diddy?
Absolutely. It could happen that way, provided that everything in that documentary is in fact substantiated in some way, and it doesn't come across like it's some sort of reputation fight as opposed to a legal analysis of whether or not something happened.
Is it possible that any of these celebrities who are known to be friends with Diddy or associates like Ashton Kutcher or Jennifer Lopez, who is actually mentioned in a lawsuit, that they could have been interviewed by federal investigators?
Oh, that absolutely could have happened. I mean, I couldn't tell you whether it definitely happened or not, but if they were, they probably are maintaining their confidentiality because they're concerned, but they also have obligations. If they're not being accused and they have factual information and they're subpoenaed and under the law they have to speak and there's no Fifth Amendment right where they can incriminate themselves, then yes, they would be speaking to the government.
We still can't confirm that the federal investigation and raids at Diddy's home were specifically targeted at him, but we can use reasonable inferences that charges could be coming down the pipeline. If that does happen, Mike expects a long road ahead and a busy set of time for his defense attorneys. What do you think is going on behind closed doors with Diddy and his defense attorneys at this point?
Well, basically, it's pretty much at this point in time, you're sitting with your client and you're trying to see what went on, because every time you speak to your client, that's attorney-client privilege. That's not something that the government can get out from you. It's not something they could tape while you're, unless, of course, you could never have attorney-client privilege if you're doing something illegal. But as far as in the regular scheme of things is basically your client has to help you get the information, because also the rules of discovery are different in federal courts than many state courts. They're not obligated to give it to you until very close to trial. So you really have to prepare your own defense on thinking of what the information is you can get, and then hopefully that matches with what they're coming at you with. Since it's a federal case, it's not going to be as quick as people anticipate, because of the fact that the government doesn't have to give you the discovery right away in the federal case. It's not like, in the state case where you get an indictment and things like that. So that's going to cause delays, because as you're getting them, as the defense is getting it, they may have to say to the court, hey, wait a minute, this took them 3 years to find. I need a little more than a month or two to get this together and prepare my defense. So it's going to be interesting to see how it moves at time-wise.
I mean, if we're looking at the investigation leading up to this potential future federal trial, then jury selection, but then the trial, I mean, that could be weeks or months too, based on all of these allegations, the witnesses. So do you think that that would be lengthy as well?
Yes, and I think it may be lengthy. I mean, it might be even more lengthy than we think, because there's no assurance that this is just involving P. Diddy. This could be an investigation where, as they go along, they're going to find, it's very unusual that when you find someone in a huge federal case where there's money involved, they talk about all these distributions, things of that nature, where other people aren't going to get charged. And that can make it a multi-defendant case. And a multi-defendant case could take months and years, especially at the federal level.
So what does Diddy have to say about all this? For the federal raids, Diddy's team calls it a, quote, gross overuse of military-level force, saying there's no excuse for the excessive show of force and hostility exhibited by authorities or the way his children and employees were treated. In response to Lil Rod's lawsuit, Diddy's team says in part, quote, his reckless name-dropping about events that are pure fiction and simply did not happen is nothing more than a transparent attempt to garner headlines. We have overwhelming, indisputable proof that his claims are complete lies. All we've heard from Diddy himself is in this statement, posted to his social media in 2023, quote, enough is enough. For the last couple of weeks, I've sat silently and watched people try to assassinate my character, destroy my reputation, and my legacy. Sickening allegations have been made against me by individuals looking for a quick payday. Let me be absolutely clear. I did not do any of the awful things being alleged. I will fight for my name, my family, and for the truth. And right now, we've only heard from him back in December of last year. He basically said, enough is enough. These allegations are false. I will prove this, etc. But since then, in 2024, we haven't heard from him once about these allegations. Is there any reason you can think of that he's kind of keeping quiet about all this?
Well, if I was his lawyer, you wouldn't hear from him either. Because quite frankly, you've got to say what's more important here, your life and your rights, or do you want to just keep chasing money and hurt the credibility if we ever have to go to trial? So, there's that Fifth Amendment right of silence is something that needs to be done to protect your client. I don't believe it's good when lawyers use that to promote themselves because they're representing someone. You have to protect your client's rights. And obviously the lawyers who are representing him are conscious of that and told him to be quiet till we resolve this.
But could all this be the end of Diddy as we once knew him? Do you think his reputation could ever recover from this?
Well, I believe if he's found innocent, it could come back. But, speaking as a lawyer, I'm saying that. Speaking as a person, not that lawyers aren't persons, but I think it's be very difficult because, yeah, a lot of people are going to doubt. It's a lot of things that everybody's hearing about it every day. People are following it. So it at the end of the day, practically, I would think, just based on society, it's going to be damaging to him.
Reporting for Law and Crime, I'm Sierra Gillespie.